One of the things that's fun about this show is we get to talk to the leaders that are on our show and to kind of understand a little bit about their world looks like. And I'm really curious specifically for you because Comcast is such a huge company in regards to the product lines. You mentioned Universal, NBC Universal. Well, that's entertainment business, right? You mentioned Comcast. That's a cable business. There's also infrastructure business behind it. You mentioned Sky. That's another network business that we have. Where do you invest your time? Because this is because I'm just curious. Like on any given line of business, there's probably like hundreds of projects, IT based projects that are happening at any given time. And of course, you oversee these projects. Give us an idea of how you use your time because I know you have great people and a lot of people working with you, but like how does your time get cut?
It's something that I question myself every day, but the way I think about my time management is I first start. It really comes down to sort of leadership style. So I believe in the servant leadership style, which means and there's sort of like two big leadership styles, at least from my perspective. There's command and control, and there's servant leadership. Command and control says I'm the big brain. I'm going to delegate to everybody, and I'm going to try to work with everybody so they're all essentially I'm project managing all my folks to kind of make sure they're doing all the right stuff. The servant leadership is more about establishing the right culture within the organization and then empowering all leaders to do what they need to do and then being there to take down their blockers, to create clarity where there's confusion, to connect purpose and the work together and to be sort of a change agent. So I'm really there. The adage is that they don't work for me, I work for them, right? And it changes the dynamic of like what I do every day. So a lot of what I do every day is scan across all the things going on, talk to my leaders, figure out where they need help, figure out where there's conflict, figure out where there's maybe not enough clarity about what we should be doing, and I lean in on those spaces. What that means for me is I'm context switching every day. There's a lot of context switching throughout the day. It means I spend a lot of time, probably more time being a therapist than a technologist sometimes. But with all that said, I think if you get a really good culture set up, it becomes this flywheel, and things happen really easily. And if you don't have a great culture in place, then it feels like every project you have to lean into and sort of push the big rock up the hill. And so what I've found in my career, and the reason I like really lean in on sort of the culture and the servant leadership piece, is it's the only way to scale. Like you can't
Yeah.
scale the other way. And so that's been, and it's been a ton of fun because it's also how you develop great leaders on the team. And so I've just been super fortunate. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without the leaders. It sounds very cliche, but I've got like some fantastic people in my group. And so I'm really comfortable just letting them have the autonomy to lead a bunch of these spaces and just come to me when they need help.
I'd love to for you to share your insight on how like projects get started. Does it start like with a challenge from you, like or the business, like, hey, we need to figure out, let's say like customer service, or we need to figure this out, and you have different product leads or project leaders come together and be like, what is a way we could solve this? Is that kind of how these solutions, I guess, get bubbled to the surface? Because you already mentioned earlier, you're not command and dictated. You're not saying, hey, we need to use this set of tools to solve this problem tomorrow, or you're not dictating things like
Right.
that. Like it's more like, I guess, are you presenting challenges like, hey, how do we do this better? And then you let the teams come together and say like, hey, we think we could solve this problem like this.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a little bit of bottoms up and top down as far as how our company works. There's a number of things where folks look at the overall business and say, "Hey, we need to implement some of these initiatives, because these are the things happening in the competitive landscape, or these are the things happening in the overall ecosystem." But then there's other things that come bottoms up, right? So I'll give you a great example of a bottoms up was I mentioned earlier the voice remote. The
Yeah.
voice remote, which was one of our best products, our customers love the voice remote. That started. There was no project. There was no product manager. There were a couple PhDs that we had in our DC office, and I had asked them, "What do you think you could do with voice technology?" And they start to build prototypes. And then we iterated on some prototypes, and we literally, a couple of us brought it home and started playing with it. And I took all the remotes, all the other remotes out of my house, and we just started using that. And a couple of us did that. And then we started giving feedback. And the next thing you know, we created this product, which was phenomenal. And so that was a great example of grassroots. It's amazing when you think about it, as big as our company is, we still have projects like that come from the bottoms up with a couple of engineers that ended up launching something to 35 million customers,
Yeah.
right? And so some things come that way, which are really some of the most exciting innovations. And then there's others that are sort of come top down that are sort of driven by the business, right? And it's everyone is somewhere in between.
With where you guys sit, where Comcast sits, because it's one thing to build software. I always say this, like it's one thing to build software for customers, right? But like the fact that you guys are, I mean, you are not just Comcast, but like you're foundational to the internet. You're the network. You're the how information gets passed. You are the entertainment that gets consumed. It's a huge array of projects that probably are happening at any given time at Comcast. One of the things that every CIO talks about that joins us on the show also is about talent and how developing talent is one of the biggest challenges, the lack of talent and the lack of where like there's not enough people that have enough talent to do and execute all the projects that a company like Comcast wants to implement. And I know that we've done a little homework, and it sounds like you and Comcast, you've done a lot to develop IT talent. There's like a Comcast Grows to Code boot camp. What are some of the things you're seeing working in regards to like building this talent? Because it's not just Comcast. The world depends. It's going to need more technical talent going forward. And I'm sure you guys with your own grassroots, like homegrown program, that's pretty awesome. Give us an idea of what you guys are doing or how you envision building talent, tech talent, because there's just not enough.
It's literally one of the things I focus on the most in this role is how do we bring in new tech talent and how do we grow what we have? And so we spend a bunch of energy in this space. And so I'll give you a couple quick examples. One is Grows to Code.
Yeah.
So one of the leaders in my org came back from a conference one day and said, "Why don't we go and train up our frontline employees and turn them into software developers?" And we all sort of looked at each other like, "That's a great idea. Well, let's do it." And so we partnered with another company, which was the boot camp, and we ended up going out and we tried to recruit some frontline employees, some techs, and some folks from the call center. Ended up getting we were looking for 12 people for our first trial. We got something like 200 or 300 applications, so there was definitely an interest. And we brought them in and we created a 12-week boot camp for them and then a 10-week apprenticeship and then turned them into software developers. And so for us, that was really, for me, it was a new diversified channel for tech talent, which is phenomenal. And then for the call centers and the technicians, this was like a career-changing opportunity, right? I mean, to go from, driving a tech to people's houses to fix their problems to sitting writing code, it was a huge career path. And so it was absolutely a win-win. And then who better to be writing code, who better than building like tools and systems for your frontline employees and your customers than people that were frontline employees that know this stuff better than anybody, right? So we got pretty excited. Our frontline employees absolutely loved it. So we're on our third pass now. The first cohort kicked off, I think it was literally like 2 weeks before COVID. So
Yeah.
it was supposed to be like everybody together, for 12 weeks in a room learning how to code. And literally the first lesson was everybody go home. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing this. Remotely. And so we're on our third one now, and we even expanded it. We started with Grows to Code, but now we've expanded into Grows to Design and Grows to Network. So we're just creating all these they're basically bridges from what folks are doing today to getting into these new areas where we're resource constrained and where people want to build, future careers. So I'm super excited about that one. That one's been fantastic. We did a couple others that I thought were pretty cool. We've declared one day a quarter to be Knowledge Fest Day.
Mm.
And so we shut down, we block everybody's calendars. It's a day of learning. And what we have is we have an internal tech conference. So basically we set up usually about 100 different sessions and folks can bounce around and learn about, we've got some of the best, network talent in the country. We've got some really strong AI teams. We've got cloud teams. We've got mobile developers, right? The list kind of goes on and on. So we thought, who better, if you want to build well-rounded technologists, who better to train them than some of the technologists we already have? So So that's basically this online all day event that happens once a quarter. And it started out just within my team, then grew to the whole technology team, and now has grown to almost most of the cable company, which is pretty cool when you think about that kind of impact. So now we actually have business people talking about programming contracts. We've got HR people talking about how our policies work and how comp works. And so we've created this ecosystem of learning, one day a quarter, where everybody sort of just starts teaching each other how their space works, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, give me an idea of how many people are taking advantage of these programs. Let's start with the code school. You mentioned 200 was the first. The first class was about 200.
First class was only 12. We started with
Oh,
12. The second one was 30. I think it was 33. And I'm not sure what the latest one is, but we're growing each one, progressively. And then we spun out. Those are just the grows to code. And then we've got the network and the design. So that's what's going on there. And then on the Knowledge Fest side, it's several thousand people that jump into these
that's
sessions.
amazing.
Yeah, which is for a full day when you think about the commitment that is, and it's really, I mean, it's great, right? That's our commitment to developing our folks, both on the technical side and on the non-technical side. And then the last one we did was we created this partnership with Drexel University for a Masters of Software Development. So we partnered with Drexel. We created this custom program that's a certified master's in computers, but it's tailored to the things that we think they need to know. So it's really heavy in security, in cloud, and machine learning, and modern software technology. So it's another way, if employees have a desire to go down that track, we made that available to them, and we actually do them partially work time, partially personal time, and we do it. The original intent was to do them in the buildings, in our offices, have professors coming into our offices. Again, this one kicked off during COVID, so it's been virtual ever since. But one day we will do that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic to hear the demand, or I guess the demand from the team members at Comcast trying to say like, hey, I want to learn these skills. I always think about how that's probably the only way, because if we rely on existing school infrastructure, that's a different topic. But we all know curriculums, that's hard to move, right? But internally,
Yeah.
you guys can move much faster. And so the ability for taking someone who, like you said, already knows the frontline problems, just like, hey, these are toolkits to solving these problems. You're probably going to hear a lot of ideas. I got to ask, when in a given week or a given month, how many new project ideas? I mean, I don't even know how many you could actually action, but like, I'm sure like every day is like people are like, Rick, here's my new idea. Like, how many ideas do you think you're thinking you oversee in a calendar month?
Yeah, I mean, we look at our projects on quarterly basis and try to do our like quarterly planning for what we're really going to work on and prioritize. And there's always hundreds of projects on the list, and it really comes down to, we always say there's no bad ideas, which is what makes it really hard. It's just
Yeah.
prioritizing like the best ideas and the most impactful ideas, right? But we're always, from a technology perspective, we're always resource constrained on just implementing the number of these great ideas that we can actually implement.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to us by Salesforce Platform. Visit salesforce.com/newsletter to discover timely insights and useful tips tailored to your role. Subscribe to this channel and get more great IT and tech interviews with top industry leaders.